Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Kwame Sarfo-Mensah. And if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, I welcome you, and I hope that today's episode is one that will have you coming back for more. And if you are a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back, and I hope that today's episode is one that you will find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get into our main event, if you're on YouTube, please hit that red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. Also, if you're listening from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for my people who would like to send donations to help us continue to build this platform, you could do it in 4 ways. If you're on Cash App, you could use the handle $IDTALK4ED. If you're on Venmo, you could use our handle @Kwame SM. If you are on PayPal, you could use the URL paypal.me/Kwame SM. And for those who are on Patreon and you want to get behind the scenes footage and learn more about what we do with Identity Talk and get some perks along the way, make sure you become a patron today. Just to give you a heads up, real soon we're going to be launching a new membership system. So once we get that off the ground, I will keep you notified of that. But in the meantime, become a patron today. And then to listen to future and past episodes of the podcast, make sure you go to our main website at IDTALK4educators.com. And for my people who are looking for some books to add to the library, you can go ahead and get yourself a copy of Learning to Relearn, Supporting Identity and Culture Affirming Classroom, my newest book. And this is a book that is my heart. It's a book that honestly I put my whole soul into. 3 years of work, 3 years of research, 3 years of interviewing some of the best educators that are out there. And this is what was produced. So I just want to thank those who have already purchased copies, those who have left reviews, those who have been spreading the word to colleagues and loved ones about the book. All the support is greatly appreciated. And if you're someone that has yet to purchase a copy, no worries. You can order a copy today. You can go to the Rutledge website directly and all other book retailers online, or you can go to our main website at learningtorelearn.com. And oh yeah, by the way, if you've already read the book, you love what you read, leave a 5-star review, because that's going to help increase the visibility of the book across the board, and every ounce of feedback counts. So I appreciate y'all for that. All right, y'all. So we're bringing back a returning guest. This guest was actually on the other podcast, Radical Math Talk, and she was so phenomenal there that I just had to bring her back because so much has changed since then in her personal and professional life. And she is one of the dopest educators out there. Like, I've been following her for a long time, really since being on social media, and to see how her journey has evolved, particularly within educational leadership, and to see what she's doing now, it's been awe-inspiring. So I had to bring the good sister back to talk with us about what's been going on since the last time she was here, and to just share some information that you all need to hear so you can be better educators in your own right. So without further ado, I know she's not a doctor yet, but we gonna just speak into manifestation. So I want to bring on Dr. Crystal Watson to the podcast to talk with us about what's been going on and how she's been living. So let's bring her on. Let's go.
Not doctor yet, but I love that. I love the.
Now we manifesting it. Like I said, we gonna manifest it. You gonna finish. You gonna finish. It's just a matter of when. That's why we saying it.
Months away.
Let's go. So you defending soon, huh?
Yeah, actually, I'm starting my research right now.
Oh, word. Oh, that's what's up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
my sister's also on this journey, and she's been on this journey for about 5 or 6 years. So she's actually gonna defend very soon.
Oh, good for her. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
got to be such
So
a great feeling.
excited.
I can't wait.
So excited. But how you feeling, sis?
You know what? I'm coming off spring break. Today is the last day before we go back. So I'm feeling pretty relaxed. And also, you know, when you have breaks, you feel like you never do what you had on your brain or on your list to do because
That's
you're like,
right.
I deserve rest. So there's things that didn't get done, but that's okay. I'm just going to be okay with that. And I'm really excited to see my babies tomorrow at school. Honestly, I miss
Mm.
them.
Yes, that's the best. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that a little later. And I know you were here the first time around and you shared a little bit about your beginnings, but we got a whole new audience here.
Yeah,
So we want to make sure we go back in time. So listen, we know you coming from the Natty, Cincinnati, Ohio to be
yeah,
exact.
yep.
Um, Proud of it. And I want you to just share a little bit about that early upbringing and what ultimately led you to want to even go down this path of becoming an educator.
Whew. Yeah, so the audience is different and increased. So, you know, huge kudos to you.
Appreciate it.
You stay so consistent and steadfast in this work, and you know you're just one of the people that I follow and I watch and I learn. um so yeah, I'm really excited for you and what's to come. The book, got it, we'll start it when I have a moment, but got it. So I'm really excited to read. For me, what inspired me to become an educator? Oh my goodness, I was that kid that set up my baby dolls and stuffed animals, and we did work. I was the teacher, you know. um, but I was also the kid that saw my mom struggle, right? Had to work multiple jobs.
Yeah.
So when people would be like, oh, teachers don't make anything, then that kind of pushed me to the wayside. And I'd be like, okay, well, what do I want to do? Since that's what's supposed to be important, is making money. So I ended up, long story short, ended up in corporate. And then I was in my early 30s. I was like, okay, I am so unhappy. I don't care about what I'm doing. None of this makes sense to me. I can't do this until retirement. So I decided to go into teaching. And I just happened to be, one of my neighbors is one of our state senators. And he was like, hey, have you ever heard of these alternative programs? And he named a few. And so I researched and then I decided to go. But the reason why I decided education was because I know it sounds very cliche, but I truly wanted to be what I didn't get. I wanted to be a teacher that saw the whole student, that saw the whole family, that saw the whole community, and poured into them instead of, doing things to them. I wanted to do things with my students, with my community, with my parents. So it was a no brainer for me. I was like, this is where I need to be. And, you know, when you have clarity, when you make a decision and that clarity is there, there's no denying. Like, it's like, yeah, that's what I need to do. Forget all the naysayers, forget the people that say I'm gonna be broke or whatever. I haven't missed any meals, no bills have went unpaid, nothing like that. So it's turned out to be fine.
All right. And it's good that you mentioned the part about wanting to be the teacher that you didn't have when you were
Yeah.
growing up. So now I'm curious about your K-12 schooling and what that experience was like. So my question for you is, with regard to that schooling, what were some of the difficulties that you had, particularly around embracing your full identity and showing up as your authentic self, not just in school, but in other settings as a kid?
Yeah, this is a really great question, actually, and it's so layered. But my K to 12 experience was, you talk too much, be quiet.
Yeah.
My conduct scores, I know I'm showing my age now because some people don't even remember when conduct scores were a thing. But like
Mm-hmm.
my effort and my grades were always straight A's, and then my conduct was like D's. And my mom would be like, why are you cutting up at school? And I'm like, I'm not cutting up. I'm bored. Like, I'm getting done with things and I don't have anything else to do. So I'm talking. Or I'm that kid that I want to discuss. Like, I've always been that child. I've always been that person where I see work as collective work. So I see it as, oh, I'd rather sit next to somebody and let's talk about our thoughts or our feelings or whatever about an assignment before we go into the assignment. And that just was not something that our education system has ever been set up to do. It is stay at a child's place and be quiet. This adult is up here and they're the expert and they're going to make sure that you learn so that you can be successful, whatever that means to them. So for me, I think that was probably the biggest identity piece that I had to, and I still grapple with it. I still do, about the fact that I don't see any schoolwork as independent. Even when I was in the classroom, I would have like joint quizzes, like where my kids could do their quizzes together. They still had to show their own thinking and their own work, but they could discuss it with someone else, right? That doesn't mean that they didn't learn or they didn't have independent ways to show their work. But I felt it was more important for them to be able to discuss and socialize with other folks in productive ways, because I felt like, and I've always felt like, school is a place that can teach us how to live, not just how to get a job, right? And I think a lot of times there's a lot of focus on career and what are you going to do after school and this and that. My son is in 8th grade right now, and people are starting to ask him, what does he want to do in college? And I'm like, he's 13. I need you to pump your brakes. I want him to have fun in high school. He has plenty of time to decide that. He doesn't even need to know when he's going to college. Like, he can just do his gen eds or whatever and figure it out. So for me, my identity that I grapple with most is the collective versus individualism. And the individualism that K-12 pushed on me caused me a lot of anxiety. It still does. Like, I'm like, am I allowed to speak? Am I supposed to do this? Or, how am I supposed to move? If I do this, am I in trouble? Those types of things. And it's something that, again, I continue to grapple with, but I make sure that my kids, in whatever place that I've been, whether it's in the classroom, coaching, assistant principal, principal, I want my kids to know that it's okay to talk. It's okay to have a conversation and a discussion about your learning, unless it's an independent, summative assessment. But like formative assessments and things like that, you should be able to banter with each other and have conversations. And then the other thing I would say, that the identity piece that really just, it influenced me as an educator as well, is that I don't think anybody ever asked me like stuff that was about me. So it was like, oh, how many siblings do you have? Where are you from? Like, where do you live? And in Cincinnati, anybody from Cincinnati can tell you, the first thing that people ask you when they meet you is, where'd you go to high school? And it's very, it's based in classism, because the minute that you say where you went to high school, they know whether you grew up in the hood or the suburbs or whatever, right? And so people ask, like, where'd you go to high school, or where do you live? Things like that, just the surface level things. And I don't remember a teacher really digging deep to really understand who I was as an individual, but I was somebody's child. I was always somebody's something or somebody's possession, and I was never like my own person.
For sure. And when you were talking about students not being able to talk, I always think about our own teacher training and how sometimes we go into it with this idea of individualism and students having to do their own work, students having to justify that the work that they're presenting to you is actually their work and their thinking. So then you're not providing opportunities for that collaborative learning. Did you arrive at that mindset along the way, or did you just come into teaching with the mindset of, nah, these kids are going to be talking to each other, they're going to be collaborating with each other? Like, how was that for you?
I think it's a both and. So going into education, I knew I wasn't going to be nothing status quo. I knew that I was going to be an off the wall teacher. I knew that people were going to be like, I can't believe she does that. Or, I talk about this a lot. My first principal, Mr. Lewis, he would come into my room and he'd be like, okay, where's Watson? And I'd be on the floor with kids or whatever, you know what I mean? And I taught middle school, so they were all bigger than me too. So I could have been standing somewhere and he didn't even notice because I looked like one of them. I knew that I was going to be a different teacher. I knew that I did not want to have a sit and get environment. I knew that I wanted to have fun every day. So if I wasn't having fun, my kids definitely aren't having fun, right?
For real.
So going into it, yes, but it evolved more because in my classroom, and I know I talk about in the classroom a lot because I feel like that's where I learned the most. Was my classroom, I had feedback Fridays. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't give me feedback any other time, but every Friday, after they took their quiz based on whatever was going on in the week, we had feedback Friday, and they got to tell me what did they like, what did they not like, what did they want more of, less of, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of kids want to be able to, they want projects. They want to apply their learning. They like meaningful work. And I taught math, as we know. And a lot of kids were like, when they started, oh, math isn't my favorite subject because we have them do their math stories and, things like that. And it's always, oh, well, I'm not good at math or I've never been good at math. And then I had the few that were like, oh, math's my favorite, right? So that was a signal to me that I had to do something different, right? So not only am I coming in with a mindset that kids need to lead more and that we need to be more collaborative and have more fun, it evolved into what do the kids want? What are the kids saying? What is fun to them? And we still get to the standards, right? Now I'll tell you that, it comes back and they'll be like, oh, well, what were your state scores? I don't know. And I don't care. Because at the end of the day, like I still follow so many of my kids follow me. They're nurses. They're running track in college. Some of them are electricians because they went to a trade school. There's all different types of things. And those are my litmuses, right? To see if I did well. I'm not looking at my state test scores. I'm looking to see where my babies ended up. Yes. And that doesn't mean that every one of them ended up where they wanted to be or where I wanted them to be. But for the most part, they knew that they had choices, that I wasn't pushing them into a college role, although that was my goal. I feel like every kid should know that college is possible. But if that's not for you, then don't do it. Go to electrician school and open your own business or whatever it might be. One of my kids was talking about he wanted to invent something called chicken candy. And I was like, okay, well, you need to start building that now. What are the flavors? What's your business proposal, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody would laugh at him. But I'm like, now he's with that program that goes around the city. I mean, goes around the world and they do bounce house stuff, like where you do like these big obstacle courses and bounce houses and stuff. And that's what he's doing now. So he's like living his best life, traveling and having fun with people, so it's just stuff like that. Like it's really not brain science. It's just sometimes taking ourselves from thinking that we're above or because we're older or because we have these degrees or whatever, that we're different from our kids.
That's right.
And it could be something as small as we had TikTok Tuesdays where, after we got done with our work, they got to teach me a TikTok dance and I had a TikTok and we posted it, stuff like that. So just like getting on their level and finding common ground so that you're not always just the old lady that teaches them math.
Hi friends, it's me, Thaddeus from Thaddeus Nature Notebook. Are you loving our journey into the wild and learning all about awesome animals? Then don't forget to subscribe. You can find Thaddeus Nature Notebook on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and never miss a new episode. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about your favorite animal. Thanks for listening and exploring nature with me. Let's keep discovering together. Now back to my daddy's self.
And listen, you're not lying about the testing part because I have kids, and I'm going to be showing my age here. I have kids who are now LinkedIn connections. They finish college. they're in their professional careers and they're requesting that I be a connection with them. I'm like, wow, this is where we are now. And some of these kids are parents,
Yes.
mothers, their fathers. Some have become teachers in their own right. So it's amazing how full circle this experience becomes. And then in the end, when they're applying for a job, ain't no employer asking about their state test scores.
None.
I've never heard a state employer ask during an interview, what did you score on this test? What was your SAT score? What was your ACT score? That's irrelevant.
Correct.
Can they do the job? Do they have the competencies to do the job?
Can they communicate?
Do they have interpersonal skills where they can communicate with people? Those are the things that employers are looking for more than anything. You know what I'm saying? So when you say that, I felt that to the core. Now, you mentioned the fact that you knew that you were not going to be a status quo teacher. I mean, that's very clear as far as how you show up. Now, as you were making a transition from classroom teacher to now instructional coach, was part of that reason because you may have seen some colleagues who are very much status quo and they weren't doing things that were helping students be as successful as they can be?
Yeah, I think it's so full transparency, the only reason that I left the classroom is because I got a fellowship and it required that I go into a leadership role for 4 years. And so I got this fellowship, went to Columbia Teachers College, met great people. I mean, 3 of my very close friends were still cool. Like I'll be around them for the rest of my life. So that's the only reason that I left. Otherwise, I'd probably still be in the classroom. Honestly, there was nothing that was like, oh, I need to leave. I was developing myself. So I was known as a teacher that would be a early adopter of new things, right? Sure. So like we had quality improvement came into our district with our Children's Hospital, Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And I was like, pick me. Let's go. Let's do these PDSAs, Plan, Do, Study Acts. Quality improvement cycles. And yes, I'll give you feedback. Yes, the kids can give you feedback. We did all types of stuff in my classroom. And I would just always be ready to either add to my tool belt, change something that I'm doing, or share something that I'm doing so that it could be shared to the greater good. I never saw myself as like anything phenomenal. What was very eye-opening to me is when I left the classroom and became a math instructional coach. I was there for 2 years. And during that time, I was like, dang, people are really not doing what I was doing. It was just eye-opening to me. And it's not a bad or a good thing.
Because you're in your own lane. You're not really paying attention to what everybody's doing. You're so focused on what you're doing in your class, you don't realize what's happening.
Yep, absolutely. And there are times where kids will come back to me and give me feedback, or now, like they've been gone from me for 6-7 years, and they'll hit me up and say, high school was so much easier because of Hartwell, which was where I was teaching. And our 7th and 8th grade was not to be played with. Like we had a strong team. And we would tell them, like, if you can get through 7th and 8th grade, you're going to be great. So I'll get like little things like that back from them. But when I'm in other classrooms, it's not a good or bad thing that I don't see what I'm doing. But as a leader now, as an assistant principal last year and a principal this year, it is really hard. I think the one thing that's hardest for me is to see folks that will not set aside adult comfort for what's best for kids. I think that's the biggest hurdle for me. Is that, that's not part of the contract. And I'm like, bruh, as a teacher, I had no idea what was in that contract. I didn't read the contract until I became an assistant principal last year. I just did what I needed to do. And again, not good or bad. I understand that people, it helps people set boundaries. But I'm like, if we're going to walk the contract, let's walk it then. And that nobody wants to walk the contract because then you're held to other things that you're not doing, right? So for me, I think that's the biggest hurdle for me is being like, okay, well, when I was in the classroom, I would do this because I knew it was good for kids. But you're telling me no because it's not in the contract, or the contract says something different. And I just that is what makes me want to become more involved in instructional leadership. So clearly, as a principal, that's my number one job, is instructional leadership. And then also just building teacher capacity. Right. So I don't want to fight you through the contract. I don't. So let me help you build some capacity in ways that, okay, let me take this off your plate because this is more important, or whatever it might be, right? So I want to respect everybody's boundaries, but I also am reminded often that not everybody is willing to do or go the miles that I went.
And I think that's the hardest part that you have to accept.
Yeah.
And I dealt with a similar thing in my last school where I was the teacher that was doing more than what was required, but it was yielding the results. And the kids were recognizing that. And I would get upset at some of my colleagues who weren't putting in that same kind of work. And like you said, I understand that boundaries have to be set in certain situations. Sometimes there are colleagues who live so far away, they don't have the ability to do what I was doing. I lived in the same neighborhood as many of the students. I lived in the neighborhood where the school was located. I could walk to and from the school within 10 minutes. That's how close I was. So I recognize that about me. But I think as a leader, I can imagine that's the toughest thing, when you know that there are teachers within the building who may not have that same intrinsic motivation as you did when you were in the classroom. And it's starting to manifest itself in the way that students are responding to them.
Yeah.
And the way that they view school.
Yes.
As an experience.
Yep. No, for sure. I talk about this teacher a lot, and I'll say his name because it's going to be all positive. Mr. Burton. Mr. Burton started out as a para in our district, and he was a one-to-one para to a child in my son's second grade classroom. So my son is now in 8th grade. So Mr. Burton, I've known him for a while. He ended up going an alternative route, got his license, et cetera, et cetera. And now he is my 5th and 6th grade English teacher. This man has 2 kids of his own, a fiance. He is a rapper, like he is an artist outside of work. But he coaches our basketball team, our flag football team. Wow. He does, he mentors so many of our boys and our girls. Our kids in general just love him. And we use wit and wisdom as a curriculum. And a lot of my teachers, and rightfully so, they complain about the heaviness, the plan heaviness of wit and wisdom. It is very plan heavy. You have to plan, because if you don't, it can be way up here and our kids are right here right now, right? And there's a lot of differentiation that needs to happen in between. This man, instead of them doing the summaries within wit and wisdom, he makes them beats. They write a rap, they record it, and then at the end of the year, they have a whole album of what they learned.
That's the project.
And on top of all that, I'm throwing all these things at this man. I done gave him a reading coach this year. I had him, the English coach, come in and help him with pacing, like all these different things. And every single time he's like, yep, catching it. Yep, catching it. Let's go. Let's go. I've been waiting for this. Let me get this support. I want to be the best. That's all I ask for. But when he gets tired, he's like, all right, Miss Watson, let's take a moment. Like, but that is all I can ask for, is that you stay open and receive the support. And then, in the contract, in the teacher's contract, I talk about that a lot because we're a very strong union.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. Okay.
We are. So in the contract, it says that they have to have so many untouched minutes of plan time. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. I'll catch it up some way. I'll catch it up. Like, go ahead and send her in. Or, and because he does that, I'm like, nope, I'm going to get you coverage for 2 hours. I'm going to have the coach come in so that y'all can work one-on-one, and I get in coverage. He gets to come out and work with her one-on-one. So I'm really excited to see his growth this year with his kids, and then, going forward. But he's just one of those ones that I'm just like, that's the work. That's the work.
Yeah. And it's stories like that that make your heart smile. Like,
Yeah.
honestly,
I go in there
hearing
to
those
get joy.
stories.
I go in there to get joy, and the way that he breaks down the curriculum, I mean, the wording, they're reading these texts, and they, the vocab and things like that are one thing, but he breaks it down. He's like, all right, y'all, let me just take you through this. And he just makes it so palatable. Whereas it's not a book that any of our kids would necessarily pick up on their own, but now they're like, oh yeah, I know what's happening with such and such and such and such and why that happened. And then he ties it into social studies. Like, he's not perfect. He's got lots of, growth to do, like all of us do, but
Sure.
He is just, I would take $1 million of him. I really would. I would take $1 million of him.
And I think in the end, that's what you want to have on your staff. You want people that are willing to grow.
Yeah.
And want to grow, and they're humble enough to recognize that they don't know everything.
Yeah.
That humility is so important.
That part. That part. Because I'm that leader too. I will tell you, I don't know, but I will find out for you. Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I've never been faced with this. Let me ask. And again, I wasn't a contract teacher. So I'll go to one of my building reps and ask them a question about the contract so that they can advise me on it, which is very nice. So I have a big heart and a lot of love for folks that can say two things: I don't know, and I'm sorry. Those are the two things that I feel like it's hard to find. So if you have that, it's a nice to have for sure.
Yes. No, absolutely. So I want to go ahead and shift the conversation a little bit, and I want to get into what's happening around us right now. So without getting too much into it, we know what's been happening in the past couple months, and even prior to the new administration coming in, and how it's shifted the way that we do the work that we do as educators. Yeah. So as somebody that is still in the trenches as a school leader, I want you to provide your perspective on how this current administration and the policies that they've put in place, the executive orders and everything, how is that impacting the ability for students to build agency within their experience? Talk to me about that.
This one hurts to me because let's call a spade a spade. It needed to be dismantled in the first place. I mean, it did. Like, our educational system was built exactly how it was designed, and to keep our kids not where they're supposed to be or where they could be. So it's not the dismantling that bothers me. It's the question of who gets to reimagine it and do it again. Mm-hmm. We're going to end up in the same situation where elites, white folks, etc., get to build whatever education is going to be. Because I can tell you, I'm in a red state. I know that people say, oh, these states are not blue and red and da-da-da-da-da. Yes, they are. Ohio is looked at on every election where we are seen as a swing state. I don't know why. I think we've went blue one time since I've been born. Yeah. But Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, we kind of hold the blue, and then everybody else around us is red. So we wouldn't even make it purple if we mixed it together. It would still be red. It's very red. So my worry is that when we send education to states and they get to make the decisions on what money is being spent and how money is being spent and curriculum and all these other things, I just worry that, like with anything, who is representing our babies?
That's right.
In those conversations, who is at the table that can tell you from an experiential standpoint what it's like to be a Black child in an urban, as they say, urban setting? What is it like to be a multilingual learner in a setting that does not allow for your home language to be the language that you get to do everything first in, right? You can't test, you can't learn in that language. So unless we're going to make sure that all of those different identities have a place at the table where we get to reimagine and rebuild, it's a mess. It's a whole mess. We're going to end up exactly where we are. For instance, Ohio right now has a bill that we're looking at. I think our governor is really going to put it through. I think that it is going to pass, where they are looking at being able to put kids out of schools for whatever reason. And it's going to be at the superintendent's discretion. And the superintendent can put a kid out for 90 days at a time over and over and over again. So for me, that is, who that's going to affect. That's going to affect our Black kids, because we're the ones that are disobedient and disruptive and all the things, right? So if I have a child that is undiagnosed ADHD and he's all over the place, which I have plenty of these, but plenty of children, myself included, all over the place, talking, disruptive. In some sense, it is disruptive to the ways in which we see classrooms, right? Classrooms are supposed to be peaceful, serene. Not me. My classroom was organized chaos. People were everywhere. When we got done doing quizzes, we jumped on our desks and danced, like all different types of stuff. But so let's say that we have a child that has undiagnosed ADHD, and now I'm disruptive. And so I get put out for 90 days. I'm not a child that's going to be proficient or above, or seen to be proficient or above on my state test. Guess what I'm going to keep doing? Put you out 90 days. 90 days. I don't have to deal with your behavior, and you're not going to pass the test anyway in their eyes. So put them out. Keep putting them out. Keep putting them out. Keep putting them out. So those are the things that really keep me up at night, because that is a hill that I will die on. I do not do a whole lot of suspensions. When it's time to go home, it's time to go home for sure. I am that person. But I don't think I suspended not one person in the first 2 months of school, because I'm like, that's a reteaching area. We're in an elementary. We go up to 6th grade. I understand the 6th graders feel big, but they're 12.
They're 12.
So we're not going to send them home because of whatever, even when they had fights, because I'm like, I don't know what the culture was before I got here. But when you have a fight, I need you to sit down and have a conversation about why the fight happened. And with boys, as an educator, you already know this, boys will fight and then be at lunch together.
Oh yeah, they'll dap it up like ain't nothing happened.
So I'm gonna make you miss school because y'all had a little spat. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Nobody's teeth were knocked out. Nobody was bleeding. Okay, there was a couple punches thrown. There'll be consequences, but it doesn't have to be an out of school consequence. The girls, my girls were very quiet throughout the first part of the year. And then now they're turning up a little bit. We had the honeymoon phases. But, theirs is based in a lot of social media stuff outside of school. And they think that since it's outside of school, that there's nothing that can be done inside of school. And I'm like, y'all, it's not like I'm trying to get you in trouble, but we will be having conversations about the things that are happening outside of school, because it affects you here. You bring it here. How do you?
Very true.
I hear about it. I know what.
Boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend drama. Who's dating who? All the tea stems from social media. I can't tell you. I would say at least 80% of suspensions that happened when I was in the classroom stem from some social media drama.
No facts.
Some kind of cyberbullying incident. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's real.
Yeah. And I had a child that I had to put out because he tried to push my security guard down the steps. And I was like, well, that's sorry. But when he came back, I was like, I'm so happy you're back. I'm happy you're back. Let's finish out the year strong. Like, you're good. I don't want him to feel like he was coming back and unwelcome. Like, you had to go, but at the same time, you come back. So I think those are the big things that I'm really worried about. I'm not worried about, and this may be me, but I have audacity. And I have the audacity to think that, and to know that I know how to lead people, and I know how to do it myself, to teach kids in ways that make sense for them culturally without using all the words that people want to say are trigger words.
Well, they're trying to ban, right?
Yeah, I don't need to use any of the banned words.
We don't need that.
I don't need to do it.
Mr.
Burton isn't in his room talking about DEI and all this other stuff, but he is doing it. You know what I mean? So the things like that, like I have that audacity to feel like we're going to continue the work is going to continue, because one thing about Black folks and about educators in general, we are resilient and we are creative. Both of those things, you can't be stopped. So we'll stop using the little words that y'all want to ban or whatever, but y'all haven't been in and by y'all I mean these folks that are making these laws and these policies and stuff, they haven't been in a classroom in maybe ever.
Sure.
So are you going to come check on us? what are you gonna do? So while I'm a little fearful for society as a whole, where I have control, I've thought about this. I've run scenarios, all of that, where I have control. My baby's gonna be all right.
The Identity Talk for Educators Live podcast is just one piece of the work that we do under Identity Talk Consulting, which we've had since 2019. And since then, we've had the privilege of working with 40 different schools, districts, and organizations across the globe. And we want to continue to add to that number in this new year. So if you are a school, if you're an educator or an organization that's looking to receive professional development and consulting services within any of our pillars, whether it's anti-bias, anti-racist practices, culturally responsive teaching, or identity affirming education, we are the firm for you, and we love to learn more about your needs. When you have a chance, make sure you go to our website at IdentityTalk4Educators.com to learn more about our services and to schedule a discovery call today. We love to hear from you.
They're gonna be all right.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, because clearly, if we're not taking a restorative approach, right? If we're not giving students the opportunity to converse through whatever issues they may have with each other, how do we give them the tools? How do we give them opportunities to build the agency that they need in order to resolve conflicts, in order to interrogate what's going on in the world? And this is perfect because we know we got a book that's going to be coming out soon that you're co-authoring, Pedagogy's a Voice.
Yes.
Street Data and the Path to Student Agency. So this is basically your lifelong thesis. You talked about the fact that you talked too much as a kid.
Yep.
And that led to you being a quote unquote behavior problem. You talked about the fact that as a teacher, you made sure you were intentional about providing students with opportunities to give feedback and to be a co-curator of the classroom experience. And now we're seeing these different policies that are being put out there that is going to counteract all of what we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
So my question for you regarding the book that's about to come out is, how does that align with your own journey as an educator? This idea of developing a pedagogy of voice.
I think as we go back to our first years in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us have so many stories about how we harmed kids. And I'm not saying we were putting our hands on them or nothing like that, but like we harmed kids. We might have read the first 90 days of school and we walked in with no smiles or whatever. You know what I mean? Like some people don't smile for the first 90 days or whatever that was. I'm not capable of that. Like I smile and laugh all the time. But anyway, so I think we do a lot of harm to kids that, you know, and if we don't sit back and reflect, then we continue the harm because we're not even cognizant of what's happening. Plus, if we don't ask kids, then we might not even know we've harmed them. And so I remember my first year, I had a child say, y'all expect us. He was coming into my classroom from another classroom. And I was like, what's wrong? You know, you're standing at the door, you know, you've noticed something is up with one of your kids. And he was coming in and I was like, what's wrong? He was like, man, y'all expect us to be positive, but y'all don't give us that energy. We just matching energy. That seems so simple. But I was like, oh my gosh.
That's a gem.
I was like, that is crazy that this boy is saying this to me. And because I swear I would get a tattoo of it because I talk about it all the time. That stuck with me I still think about it. It sticks with me because I'm like, if we as educators do not model what we expect from our kids, then what are we even doing? We're saying do better than us, or do what I say and not what I do.
That's
and that's
right.
not really fair. I think with Pedagogies of Voice and how it came from my own experiences, I think what was the biggest piece that helped me evolve, and I'm still evolving. Writing the book, I evolved through writing the book. Like, I mean, I can't wait until this book baby is birthed. I'm telling you, it's an amazing piece of work. And just like you, we interviewed educators, like there's educators' work all in the book, and, anecdotes, and our kids are in there, Jody Bell, her daughter, has a quote in there. And
Jody,
yes, her girl, hey Jody, love you. And then, just like there's so many things in there that you're going to be like, okay, I see myself in this. And I think that's the key to Pedagogies of Voice, is that our babies need to see themselves in the classrooms. And when people say that, I know that it's become like a buzz sentence, but what that means is it's like, if I am an educator, I'm 40, almost 42. I cannot pretend to know what it's like to be a 13-year-old right now. Have I been 13 before? I absolutely have. When I was 13, there was no social media. I had a beeper. So, like, all of these different things, right? And then we can't continue to think that COVID is gone and just a thing of the past. COVID itself is still around, yes, but the effects of COVID, we're going to see the effects of COVID like they did polio for such a long time. Because what I'm noticing is the ability to communicate has got to be retaught. It's got to be retaught to parents even, because guess what? As a parent, we were shut down for years too and forgot how to communicate. There's people with anxiety, social anxiety, that never had anxiety before. So as far as a pedagogy of voice, I think we first have to be honest with ourselves as educators to say, one, how can I better align and understand where my kids are coming from? Number one.
Yes.
Number two, I think we have to step back and say, where was my student? So if I teach 5th grade, what grade were they in when they were online for a year and a half? And what key items were elementary kids, elementary to like that middle school era right now, are struggling because they didn't have to communicate. They didn't have to learn how to share because they weren't in the classroom. They were sitting in front of a computer in their homes or wherever, right? And so we've got to step back and say some things need to be retaught instead of just picking up from where we left off. No, we've got to reteach. I've had to reteach kids what boundaries are. And so one of the things that happens in my building a lot is we like to talk about people's dead people. So I have a lot of students that have lost parents to gun violence. And so they'll be like, that's why your daddy's dead and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all can't say that. And they're friends, right? And then they get into a little argument or whatever, and they say that. So then I bring them in and I'm talking to them. I'm like, what is a no-go? Like, y'all are capping on each other. And I understand capping. We did the same thing. But like, what is your boundary? What is a no-go? And he's like, I don't want anybody to say anything about my dad. And I say, do you hear him? And then I have to tell them, like, that's setting a boundary, y'all. That's how you set a boundary. You say, hey, everything is fair game except for my dad. Now, if you go if you go that way, then know that it's going to take a turn into something real.
On site.
Exactly.
On site.
Yes. So I'm like, just little things like that, teaching them how to do that. Or when they need a pencil, instead of grabbing it off of somebody's desk, saying, hey, can you pass me a pencil? Or do you have an extra pencil that I can use? Stuff like that. It just seems so menial, but it's things that these kids end up in my office for disciplinary, because they blow up about something so small that they could have been taught earlier, but they weren't, because they might be a only child. My kid missed out on a lot of socialization because he's an only child, and he was in 4th grade during COVID. So I'm like, at least he got some socialization before then. But I can't imagine if he was a kindergarten 1st grader, where you learn all of those socialization skills, you learn how to play with others, all of that, all of that was missed.
Yeah.
And we just forget about all of that. So with a pedagogy of voice, I think it really comes down to understanding that we want to say kids are different. They are different. And that's a beautiful thing. It's not that, you know, they're worse than us. I mean, our parents said stuff about us too. Why are your pants sagging? Your pants are too big.
Yeah.
Or why are you saying dude so much or whatever, right?
Right.
So taking a moment and just getting to know where our kids are, understanding what's important to them culturally. And I'm not talking about racially because everybody thinks culture, race. No, culturally, like teenage years is a culture, right?
Yeah.
What's the culture of the teenagers? What's the culture of third grade right now? You know, understanding all of the cultural pieces so that it can be not necessarily infused into your curriculum, but just in the day-to-day stuff. Like if it's a thing where you see all your kids making up handshakes, I know that everybody does it now since, you know, dude did it on Ellen or whatever, but if you see that all your kids are making up handshakes, get in on that. You know, if you live in a culture rich city, like for instance, Cincinnati is very rooted in Black music. So like, you know, Bootsy Collins and like all different types of folks are from here. High Tech, one of the greatest producers.
Oh, Reflection Eternal. Come on now.
Okay, period.
Kwame, yeah.
Yes.
High Tech. Yes.
One of my favorite albums. But they are from here and they still live here. So it's not like we can't give them these experiences and let them know kind of what we are, why we're culture rich, what is the culture in our city that we can tap into, and build experiences around the things that are right in our backyards. That's really what Pedagogy of Voice is about, is giving kids time to talk about what's important to them, to have agency in their learning and say, this is not the way that I learn. I need this or this. And oftentimes kids need to be taught how to do that respectfully. And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you don't get to determine the disrespect. The person that's receiving gets to determine the disrespect. So if they say they felt disrespected by you, then you have to understand and reflect on that. It may not be what you meant to do, but they might have felt disrespected. So if they're like, I don't learn like this, you know what I mean? Which happens a lot with my babies. Or bruh. A lot of teachers don't like bruh. They're like, Principal Watson don't care. And I don't, because I get it. Like, bruh, I know you're not trying to disrespect me. It's just part of your vernacular. So it might just be a conversation about when's appropriate for your bruh. But I call them bruh. I'm like, bruh, for real? That's what we're doing today? Oh, okay. All right. And I'll go in and I'll try to use their little lingo. We never got into Riz. I don't know where that went. It missed the hood. Like we didn't do Riz or nothing. No. Yeah, it missed the hood. We're I'm on Clock That T right now. Okay. That's what I'm already doing. My girls stay teaching me.
Listen, so we're almost at the end of the hour, so I want to make sure I give you time to just talk about motherhood, because that's something that I know is important to you. And I want you to talk about your son Dorian, because listen, you're talking about 8th grader, right? You just mentioned 8th grader in school. Brother got a SAG card, so he doing the modeling, he doing the voice work, probably got some acting gigs, but he's still on that schoolwork. He's still prioritizing that and is humble about it, which is just a testament to those ideals you instilled in him. So I want to know from you as a mother, given everything that we've talked about, all the chaos that's happening, how do you manage to keep your own son grounded in what he loves to do and give him the space to just be himself in this world? Because it's not easy. It's not easy.
And it's not.
No, it's hard.
Dorian is an amazing kid. Like he came out the womb an amazing kid. Like he never had a diaper rash, never was sick. Like, I mean, he was such an easy baby. And I think the fact that he was planned, you know what I mean? So we were ready for him. We knew what we wanted to do. We thought about his life. We thought about what village we want to have around him, all of the things. So I think that that's a big one. But for him, we are not censorship parents. We never have been. It's like the real world is not going to censor anything from you.
Unfiltered.
Yes. So did we let him do everything? Absolutely not. He wasn't allowed to play like shoot 'em up games until very recently, actually. And he's still not allowed to shoot humans. He's only allowed to shoot like zombies or whatever. When he started showing an affinity for guns, I took him to the gun range because I need you to know that this is real. There's power behind this. Like, it's not just some toy. He went to the gun range and was like, yeah, I don't like this. He's still interested in, like, you know, how weapons have evolved. He loves history, things like that. But I'm telling you, exposure is everything. Anytime he has said he wants to do something, we make it happen. So he's like, oh, I want to skate. Okay. So we take him skating. He's on one of the little white things that he's got to hold himself up on. Next thing we know, we got him a skate coach. He's out here skating with his skate coach. Actually skated in the Super Bowl with Usher. He's from here. We knew him before that, but we're very proud of Dylan. He's amazing. And so next thing we know, he's like skating. He skates in our opening day Reds parade. He skates in our Blink parade that we have here. Like he's a skater. He wanted to act. And so we started Instagram, and he became a micro influencer where people were just sending him little outfits and stuff like that to take pictures.
Almost 10K, mind you. Almost 10K. Help the brother out. Help the brother out.
But but he was like a little micro influencer. And then he was like, no, I want to get into acting, like not just modeling. So we looked for an agent. And so we found him an agent that really wanted and believed in him. We got him in acting. And I will tell you, the COVID was a blessing in that aspect because everybody's acting went online. So we were accessing acting coaches from LA and from Atlanta and from all these different places because everything was online. So he was working with this woman named Josie, which Josie was a fly girl on In Living Color.
In Living Color, yeah.
And she was the love interest in Renee. She was Renee in the video, The Lost Boys. But anyway, so that was one of his acting coaches in the Abbey. And so everything that he says that he wants to do, we just make sure that we make it happen in whatever way makes sense for him. But we always bring him back to the fact that he is so privileged. So he understands what privilege means. He understands that the things that he gets to do and he gets to experience, that not all kids get that. He has this deep heart for unhoused people. He's like, when I make my first $1 million, I'm going to make a micro community where they can bring their dogs. Like, that's the type of stuff that he says, you know. Up. But I think, again, it goes back to modeling. You got to be humble about your stuff. Like, work hard, know that you're a winner. But you don't have to always be that person that puts it in people's faces or anything like that. Be excited about your stuff and things like that. But the Disney stuff that he just got finished, just came out, Win or Lose, that was a big deal. And I was watching him to see how he would do. Because the city showed him so much love. His school, the news stations, our radio station, like everybody showed him so much love. And he just remained so like, it was fun. And I hope that it turns into something different. But it was just a lot of fun. And I'm glad I got the experience. So watching him, it has been, it's been really fun. Honestly, it's been really fun. But he knows that all of that can go away if your grades ain't right. And when I say that, I mean, if they're not your best. If C is your best, I'll take it. But I know that C isn't your best.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's just so dope. But this is what having a pedagogy of voice can do.
Yes.
This is what it is right here. When you're able to create pathways and possibilities for students so they can see what's possible beyond what people say they should do or can do. Like, no, I can create a world that transcends what everybody else is doing. I can create that world for myself.
Yep.
And it's because someone put that bug in me to explore what's out there. They gave me the opportunity.
That opportunity.
That's what it's about.
Makes a
right
difference.
There. So to wrap it up, this is the question I ask everybody. How do you stay true to the teacher in you?
I talk to kids. That's it. That's all. So when I start to like feel myself veer from reality of being in a seat as a kid, and I start thinking about doing things to kids, like implementing new policies or saying this or that, I take a moment and I say, nah, I got to go sit with my kids, whether that be at breakfast, whether it be in the during class, and I just sit next to them and just kind of listen. I go talk to kids, and that always brings me back. Always. They always have something really dope to say when we're really listening, and we're not just checking a box saying, oh yeah, I talked to kids today, but like we truly are listening to them. And I'm telling you, from pre-K to sixth grade in my building, I can talk to any grade level and I'm getting something from them. My students in my units, I have 4 autism units. I can talk to any of those babies and they tell me, they give me some that roots me back into my why, the importance of staying grounded. And then also the importance of listening to them, because I'll be like, oh my gosh, I wasn't thinking about that. Case in point could be like, I asked students about their intervention time. And I was like, well, what do you think about intervention time being at the end of the day instead of the beginning of the day? And they were like, I think that would be a good idea because a lot of us are late in the morning. Duh, I probably should have known that, but like, you're in the class watching all your peers come in late with their breakfast. So
that's right.
I mean, it's just little stuff like that. Like, I just listen to kids and I ask them just to tell me what's on your mind. And it doesn't have to be school related. I just listen.
And sometimes it's that simple. It really is. I feel like a lot of what we do in education is common sense.
Yeah.
And we don't always follow that intuition. We tend to overcomplicate it with some nonsense.
Every time.
You know what I mean? When we could have just listened to this child and just take heed to what they're saying. But, c'est la vie. But Crystal, thank you again for coming on.
No, thank you.
It is always good to talk with you. It's always good to chop it up. I'm so happy for everything that's going on with you. And I'll be even happier once you're all done with your defense and you can finally get that doctor title there, even though I feel like the work you've been doing has already warranted that title. But we'll go through the formality. We'll go through the formality of it all. That's fine. Yeah. But listen, let people know how they can connect with you on social media and share a little bit about some of the work you do, because I know you do keynote speaking and you do some consultation. So let people know about that as well, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Crystal M. Watson on all the social medias. I've not been very active on social media lately, just because, being a first year principal is wild, y'all.
You ain't got time. You don't got that time like you used to.
Yo, I just had a conversation with Bobby.
Bobby Morgan.
Week.
Yeah.
Oh, both of us were just like, oh my gosh, this is such a healing conversation, because both of us are in year 1. But you can contact me there. I'll be at AERA. So if anybody's at AERA, holla at your girl. I'm keynoting in Wisconsin for Wisconsin math in May. And then I will be at Carnegie the summer. I'm keynoting in Arizona and in San Antonio. So if you're there, I'll see you there too. I will be in St. Louis in July, keynoting there. And then I will be in Washington, the state, in October, keynoting there.
Wow.
And then who knows what's going to happen with this book in July, August. I'm so excited. If you're interested in signing up to get free books, go to Corwin's website, search Pedagogy is a Voice, and it will come up and you can actually sign up to receive a free copy.
Can people pre-order the book right now?
They can.
All right, y'all. Pre-order the book. Go to Corwin, not that other site. Go to Corwin.
That's right. Corwin this time, y'all. Corwin this time.
All right. So y'all heard it from Crystal. Make sure y'all connect with her. Make sure y'all follow her work. We'll put all of her information in the episode notes. And we're going to wrap it up right here. So on behalf of Crystal, thank you all for coming on for another episode of IDTALK4ED Educators Live. And as always, I wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And we're going to do this again another time. Peace out, y'all.